Hello everyone, welcome back to Jagala Apparel. So today we're going to be making a palazzo trouser with the top. So first we're going to be cutting the trouser right now. Okay, so to measure the length, the actual length of the trouser, the measurement I'm making use of is 44. The length of the client that owns this trouser is 44. That's the length. So I'm going to measure 44 down. Watch what I'm going to do. That's 44. Now there are some trousers that you can actually cut the band together with the trouser, not separate, where the band is not separated. Then you add 3 inches. So I'm going to try to do that here, but by the time I'm making this trouser, I cut off that 3 inches. That extra 3 inches that I added, I cut it off. I didn't add it. But for the sake of this video, I'm just letting you know that if you want to cut the band together with the trouser, this is how you take the measurement. Okay, just so that you don't include it in your flap measurement, just mark 2. Just draw 2 marks so that you know where your actual flap starts. Right, so this is the flap measurement. I'm making use of 11 for an adult female. 11, the length for 11 is actually very much okay. And then to take the waist measurement, now the waist measurement is 31. Now because we are making a palazzo trouser, I'm going to use the hip measurement for it, because our hip measurement is 40. So I'm going to be making use of the hip measurement for the waist, because the waist is going to have elastic. So I'm making use of the hip measurement for the waist because of the elastic. Please pay attention to that. Because of the elastic, if you were to be a band or any other way you don't need elastic, you have to stick to the waist measurement. The flap length I'm working with is 11. For a female, 11.5, 12, depending if the person is fat, will be 11 or 12. So I worked with 11 because she's not very fat. She's tall, but she's not very fat. Okay, and then you just curve it in a little bit. Your curve can be like 1.5 inches inside so that it can sit well on her thigh. All right, and then you connect the trouser together, connect it from the leg to where that curve is. Can you see the shape? And the trouser is ready. Remember I said I had to cut off that upper part. I'm just showing you if you're joining the band together with the trouser. Okay, this is how you cut it, but if you're not, you can just cut it off. It doesn't matter. All right, I eventually cut it off. This is the front part of the trouser. Please take note of that. This is the front part. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to notch where I made the band, the extra for the band. I'm going to notch it. So that's all. Now it's time to cut the back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place the front part on the fabric for the back. Okay, I'm just going to place it. So please just watch what I'm doing. You will understand everything. Now I'm adding 2 inches extra. Okay, 2 inches all around. Just place from the length, the full length of this trouser. I'm going to add 2 inches extra. Okay, 2 inches where the flap is. So I'm going to add 2 inches all round. Okay, till we get to the top, 2 inches. Please, if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please help us grow by hitting the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up so that it can reach more people. Thank you so much. Please watch what I'm going to do here. Now for the back side, I'm going to add just 2 inches upward. Just 2 inches upward. You can use 1.5. Okay, now we're towards the flap. Now that extra inches should be at the flap side. All right, then you mark it down. You mark it down to the middle part. I use 2 inches here, but you can actually use 1.5. But it's up to you. It depends on the person's backyard, the hip of the person, how the hip of the person is, and then just cut off the fabric. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the fabric. It's into two, it was folded into two, so I'm just going to open it up. You already know. And here it is, our trouser is ready. So the next thing is we're going to be cutting the top. All right, we're going to be cutting the top. Now the full length for the top is 27. The full length for the top is 27, so that is the length, and I'm going to also measure out the full length as well. All right, so just measure out your full length, and then we'll be working with the block, okay, with the pattern block. That is what we are going to do. It's very easy. Just watch what I'm doing, you will completely understand it. Okay, now that is the full length of the top that we're working with. 27, that's the length. And then you're going to take your body measurement the same way. Now we are starting with the back measurement. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 17, and that is 8.5. All right, divided into 8.5, and the shoulder is 8 inches. So I'm going to mark that, and then obviously connect it, and then the shoulder slope. All right, so now we've marked that for the armpit, and then the next thing is the neckline. We're going to mark the width of the shoulder. I'm making use of 3.5. all right, I'm making use of 3.5. Then mark the shoulder slope. So I'm using here 1 inches for the shoulder slope. All right, so and then the next thing we are going to be doing is take the body measurement, round body measurement. Her bust is 36 divided by 4. Okay, and then we had 9, so I just added 1.5 inches extra for it, because it's going to be a free top, it's not a fitted top. All right, so I just added 1.5, so I'm going to be making use of half inches for the sewing. That's for the same allowance. And then our waist was 31. Our waist was 31 divided by 2. All right, also I added 1.5 inches extra. And then the hip, our hip measurement was 40 divided by 4 as well, and I also added 1.5 and then connected everything together. All right, so the next thing I will be doing is the neck depth. Now the neck depth I used, okay, for the neck depth, which is the back, I used 2 inches. All right, for the neck depth at the back I used 2 inches. You can make use of 1.5, is entirely up to you. Right, so I used 2 inches and connected everything together, and then we're going to cut. Back is ready. Now we are going to be cutting the front. Now see what I'm doing, please watch carefully, please. I placed the back on another fabric that I'll be using for the front, so I added 2 inches extra in front, as if you're sewing a shirt. If you want to sew a shirt, there's that part that the button will be, okay, you actually add extra inches, so that's exactly the way as if you're sewing a shirt. In case you don't know how to sew a shirt, now this is how you're going to do it. All right, so I added 2 inches from the top to the down, from the neck to the full length of the top. All right, so that is it. I just added 2 inches from the neck, from the shoulder rather, down to the full length of the top, 2 inches. That was what I added and connected everything together. So, and then I placed the back that I've already cut out, I placed it on the front, exactly that 2 inches mark that I did, and then connected all the marks together, or everything that I've already measured. I connected everything together. Open it up at the end of it. Okay, now I'm going to open it up. For that armhole, I went in half inches depth, in half inches, because the front and the back cannot have the same cotton cannot have the same measurement, so I went in half inches. For the neck, I used 4 inches depth. Okay, I used 4 inches depth for the neck measurement, and I'm just going to take this off. Can you see how it is? All right, so that front is where that design that you saw in the picture, the design of this dress, that is how it's going to be. And then we're just going to cut this out. Now the next thing we are going to be doing, I had to notch the two parts, notch the neck, and also notch the center part of the dress. I want to know where I have placed all the marks. Okay, so that is it. So the next thing we are going to be doing right now is to cut the sleeve. The sleeve I'm working with, the length is 9. Okay, so it's a very short sleeve for the dress, so I'm just going to cut it off. And then this is a sleeve for the dress. So the other thing we're going to be doing right now is to cut the pocket for the trouser itself. Okay, the measurement I'm using for the pocket is 10.5 by 7 inches. The length 10.5 by 7 inches. That is the measurement I'm using for the pocket on the trouser, the palazzo trouser. So it's time for us to sew. Now the first thing is we're going to be joining the front flap together. The front flap, very important. The front flap, we're going to be joining it together. Now this is the back, the flap for the back. Also join that together. It's time to fix the pockets, the front pocket. So please watch what I'm doing. For the depth, I used the 6.5 inches. For the depth, I used 6.5 inches. Right, so and for the width, I used 2.5 inches. Alright, so I'm just going to connect it together for the pocket. Now that's how the shape of the pocket is going to be. Alright, so and then the next thing, I'm just going to cut that part out. On the pocket, remember I said I'm using 10.5 inches by 7. Alright, so the length 10.5 inches and the width, the wideness 7 inches. So shared into 2. So the first part, the front part, where I'm going to be, that will be joined together, directly together to the front trouser, is going to have that same shape that I just cut off. Alright, so I just joined 2 together, one for the right and one for the left. So just to draw that shape, that is all, nothing complicated. Alright, so these are 2 fabrics joined together, 2 fabrics that I just cut off, one for the right and one for the left. That's the front part of the trouser. So I'm going to be joining it together. After the joining, turn the pocket inside and then sew a stitch on the fabric itself, the front trouser, the front fabric. Sew a stitch on it so that it can the trouser, the pocket can balance well inside. So after that, you now break in the second part of the pocket, which is going to serve like a cover. Okay, just watch. Beauty and style, a glow that lasts from hoodies, tees to skincare. If you remember, I cut off 2.5 inches from the front. Okay, so the same thing, I'm going to leave 2.5 inches for that fabric so that it can balance up, because it has to balance up so that this can be joined to the back. Okay, now this is the front part of the trouser, so the same thing, 2.5 inches. Then turn it to the back and sew the pieces together. That's the pocket itself. Okay, this back will not be don't sew the same on the trouser, please. just the pocket, just to sew the pocket together. So that is what I am doing now. So after that, you can see now just sew the little part that is joined to the trouser, sew it together, and then also at the top, the waist, okay, you sew it together so that it can balance when you're sewing. When you're joining the front and the back together, it does not unravel or it doesn't move, so that you don't make a mistake. And so you also just stitch on it so that it can balance while joining later on. Please, if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please help us grow by hitting the subscribe button. Also, please like this video. If you have a question regarding this trouser or anything, please do not hesitate to leave your comment and I will respond. Thank you so much. Skincare dreams that Galena brings life to all your. Now can you see on the side pocket is ready? Okay, so we're going to replicate what we did on this part of the pocket. We're going to replicate exactly like this on the other side of the pocket. Okay, we're going to replicate just what we have here on this side, and this is it. This is it. Can you see how it is? Look at the second part. Okay, can you see how clean and neat it is? So it's something you can also do. All right, it's very easy. So we're going to be joining the front and the back trouser together. That is all. So I'm just going to fast forward this. Just join the two sides together. All right, so after joining the two sides, what we are going to do is also going to join where the flap is, the second side that attaches the flap. Now we are going to be joining that as well. Now what I usually do is, you can see, just make sure they align. Okay, what I usually do before, I usually start from the flap, the upper part, but I realized by the time I get to the leg, it doesn't balance. So I started sewing from the leg and I walk my way up to the flap. Okay, so whenever I did that, when I started doing that, I realized that my trousers always balanced. You will see what I mean. You start from the leg and work your way up, it will balance at the flap. Can you see? Can you see that the lines align? Okay, can you see that the flap line, can you see that it aligns? Now when you start from the flap, it will align to the foot. You won't have any issues. So the next thing I did was to attach the band. Okay, that is very easy. I used 2 inches for the band. I didn't want this video to be too long, so I'll show you how I made the top in the next video. Please make sure to watch it. Alright, so how I made the top will be in the next video. You wouldn't want to miss it. Thank you. And if you're yet to subscribe, please do that. Like this video. Our trouser is ready. Can you see it? I will see you in the next video. Please make sure you come back so that you can watch how I made the top. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Leave your comment. I'd like to hear from you. Thank you.